Thanks everybody for joining us. So this is actually the first ever writers workshop that we've done, which is kind of weird because we've been around since 2016 and I am a writer, but we've never done one, and now's a good time as ever to do it. If there are writers in here, let us know. If you are not a writer, also let us know. I recognized a bunch of names in the signups that are not writers. So let us know in the comment section what job title you have, and sort of what you want to learn about too. We want to know. So yeah, it's our first ever writers workshop. You think of scriptation and you think it's used by directors and DPs, script supervisors, assistant directors, but there's a ton of ways that writers can use scriptation, and some ways that when I was working in TV, I found ways that I didn't even realize that, oh, here's something that I could use scriptation for. So we're going to talk about all that today, how scriptation can be used in the writer's room and on set. And I think something that generally makes these workshops so great, and let us know if you've been to some of our other ones, is that we're always learning something from each other. So I very much want this to be a conversation and not a how-to on how to do these things, because every single workshop I'm learning different ways people are using scriptation, and I think that is really cool, and hopefully we all learn together. So we have a Q&A section. Leave your questions there. We will do our best to answer them. Some of them we will take live, some of them we'll just answer in the Q&A section. I will do my best to monitor them as they come in. And if we have time at the end, we're trying to keep this to an hour. So if we have time at the end, maybe 10 minutes or so, we can do an open Q&A. So without further ado, I'm going to bring all of our panelists on. We have really great people coming on. So let's jump on, and I will do all the introductions. Hi, Jess. Hi, Jenny. And Noah's here. Okay, thanks for joining us. Let's start with Jess, and she popped on first. Jess is a TV writer who specializes in musical comedy. I can attest, it's great. She has written on ABC's Modern Family and Blackish, two shows you've definitely heard of, Fox's Pivoting, Nickelodeon's Danger Force, and TV Land's Hot in Cleveland. She has also written multiple pilots for Disney Channel. Jess most recently was a writer-producer on Hulu's hit Monkey, and she currently serves on the Interguild Sustainability Alliance. Thanks for being here, Jess.
Thanks for having me.
We're gonna hop on to Noah Evslin. He's has been a writer or writer-producer on such shows as NCIS Hawai'i, Hawai'i 5-0, Colony, as well as a non-writing co-producer on Grey's Anatomy, Scandal, How to Get Away with Murder, Private Practice, and The Catch. That is a really impressive resume. We're really happy to have him. He also co-host the wildly successful and I added wildly successful. I hope that's okay with you. And Scriptation sponsored podcast, Screaming into the Hollywood Abyss, or as the cool kids call Sitha. A lifelong surfer, Noah splits his time between Hawaii, where he's from, and Los Angeles with his wife and 2 kids. Thank you for being here, Noah.
Thank you for having me.
And finally, we have Jenny Lynn, who grew up the child of Taiwanese immigrants who ran a garment business, writing with her parents through Southern California's vibrant ethnic enclaves. She would often dream of characters and stories she might be a witness to. Boy, is Jenny a writer or what? Since then, she has plunged into worlds as eclectic as vampire superheroes and cutthroat athletes, having cut her entertainment teeth as a junior creative executive on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Angel, and Firefly, then as a writer on such hits as Arrow, Marvel's Iron Fist, Spinning Out, and Mayans M.C. Thanks for being here, Jenny. And finally, myself, I'm the founder and CEO of Scriptation, the Emmy award-winning app for film and TV production. I have over 15 years of experience working in the entertainment industry, having written on shows like Hot in Cleveland, Crowded, and Blackish, and the Universal Pictures romantic comedy The List, which is actually out today. You could buy it, that's not why we're having this, it's just a coincidence, but you can buy it or rent it on demand right now on all the streaming services. Okay. By the way, I just want to say, while everybody is here, between Blackish and Mayans MC and NCIS Hawaii, there is so much punctuation in all of the names of the shows that like I'm not used to writing. So it's like the most writing I've done and most difficulty I've had doing stuff in a while. It's like there's just too much here. Anyway, so let's get things started. We are going to go kind of one by one on how we use scriptation, sort of talk about maybe how we found out about scriptation and how it benefits us. So leading off right now is Jess Potter, and Jess, take it away.
Yeah, I found out about it because I was working with Steve. We were both assistants at the time on a multi-camera pilot that was having these like crazy rewrites where we would have to put out like a new draft of the script every single day. And that's like 50-page scripts. So there was a lot of wasted paper. And we both were complaining about it. And we both said, oh, there should be an app for this. And then Steve actually went and made it while I sat on my hands. So that's how I found out about it. And then ever since then, I've, obviously been very invested in its success. And I've employed it in every single show I've worked on. And I've sort of become this like unpaid evangelist with every room I'm in to try to get them all to go paperless, because it is so much easier to just have your one iPad that you bring with you, to and fro, and you don't need to carry stacks of scripts around. You don't need to be responsible for all of that paper waste. And it's just easier to keep yourself organized. And one of the main things that I like to do with it, which I'm not sure if you signed up for this, if how familiar most of you are with the app, but like their big selling point is that they transfer notes from draft to draft. But it's not just like, oh, I made a note on page 1, it's going to transfer to page 1. It actually, through this magic process, analyzes the note that you made in relation to what text is in the script, and then it transfers it to the appropriate part of the next draft, which is pretty incredible. So I actually can screen share, and I was going to show you how to do that. So this is like the shooting draft. And let's say, I'm on set. I don't think a certain line is working. Oh, we had something for that, didn't we? So I go back to the table draft, and I see during the table draft rewrite, I had scrawled in, an alt joke that I had. So you can go to your shooting draft, you go transfer, you click on the previous draft. So in this case, it was the table draft. It analyzes it. You want to go from table draft to shooting draft? Yes, that's what I want to do. Begin. And boom. So this was page 12 in the shooting draft. It was previously page 10, but it knew, and it moved my alt joke to the appropriate line about menses. So mission accomplished. So yeah, that's my favorite feature that I think is really unique and bespoke to our industry. And then this was a pilot that I came in to do punch up on. And this is just an example of during a table read, I say what's working, what's not, with like little check marks or like slashes, because everything's going so quickly. And I just use I actually have like a third-party pen. I don't even have the Apple Pen, and it works really well. And then, yeah, again, I put little joke pitches in the margins using this text box function, which is this one. And then, sometimes you can do little stickies if you have more to write, but then you have to click on them. So it's just dealer's choice. Then yeah, that's what I do.
And I think so something that and we all use scriptation obviously for our scripts, but you're using it for outlines, and I think that's something that we can use it all the way through the production process. I mean, when I was a script coordinator on shows, I would use it for BS&P, and I'll show you guys how I sort of did that later, but you can also keep all of your files and folders in there and sort of use it for initial drafts and outlines and things coming through. So we're gonna jump over to Jenny, who's gonna share her screen and share some things that she does with scriptation.
Hello.
back to your first thing, how I was introduced to Scriptation. So of course I knew Steve from the tennis court. You were actively working on this app, and I think one of the main specialties of the app was exactly what Jess had just shown us, transferring notes, especially when you're going from colored drafts in different production drafts. But at the time I was in development, so I was thinking like, well, I probably won't need that until I got into production on a show. But it turned out to be one of the best just PDF markup tools that I've ever used. So I would say like a quick side hack is I also do it beyond script and development kind of stuff. I even need, like my workout chart and stuff like that, or mark little notes. But so with that, first of all, I wanted to show two things. One of them when I'm in development or in the writer's room, and then the other second set is once I'm in production. So let me try to share a screen here. Okay, so you guys can see that?
Yep.
Okay. So for instance, this is reading material. This is research. This was on a show. And, sometimes we get reading material and we want to highlight certain things. You see I have a little Post-it here thing, and I make notes for myself, like, hey, find out what kind of setbacks that one might have with bipolar disorder. And I found that you can also do this with room notes. In our room at Mayans, our writer's room notes were really, really copious. Sometimes they're 20 pages long of text and we're highlighting. And then sometimes I don't have the time to, go scroll through every single page and all the notes. So one of the things that I like to do then is to export these. So I go up here, let me see if I can do my little thing here. And this little book thing, you see this, we have bookmarks, and then we have no bookmarks, but all the notes. And I love that it's all listed here on the side. So if I want to quickly go see how many notes that I took. But I think the best thing about this is the share, right? Am I doing this right, Steve? I go down to share. Is that what it is? No, not yet. I go down to annotations. We have a choice between embedding them, which is if we share that, everything is still movable, right? If we flatten it, it all goes, but I go all the way down to annotation summary, and then I share it to myself. And then what I get now is just a list of all the things that I highlighted. Remember, I had written down, find out some types of setbacks. And then for myself, it's like this nice little outline of things that I need to look back on. And if I'm in the writer's room, that's even better, where it's like if the showrunner had certain questions that we want to work on the next day, they're now in my nice little small list. And it's like, talk about this character, please, think some more about Act 2. And that's what I have, right? In this little succinct thing. And then
that's awesome. Do you ever share
it.
that? Do you ever share that, or is that sort of just for yourself?
I've kept it for myself, but I think like when I give friends notes on scripts, I tend to like to type them out, and then you'll get the same kind of thing, right? Then I can send that to friends, so it's not like this cat scrawl. So now once we get into production, this is total whiplash and something particular, but one of the things that I really appreciated in production was having all of these. It's on Mayans, it was a very, very production heavy show, and you'll see all these multiple documents that I have up. But for me, it was, we're go, go, go. And it was really important for me to have the call sheet for the day up, which means I could see everybody's names here. I like learning everybody's names on set. And oftentimes we would have multiple units going. So, you've gotten to know your main unit crew, but now you have date players and your tandem unit crew. And this was an easy way to get to know everybody beyond, where I needed to be. Then on top of that, we would have sides for that day, right? So I'd keep it up on this second tab, have that up. And then our directors were also, we were a very Scriptation heavy show. Thankfully, when I joined the show, they were already heavy into using Scriptation, and even our directors used it. So I could have the director's plans for the day and see what he has in store, so that this he also made on Scriptation. So I'd like to know like his shot list, so I know, hey, if I need to jump in and talk to him about a certain scene, that's also here. Then I have my production draft, because often actors will ask me questions about like, hey, how should I play this? And I want to see the scene before, right, in script order that wasn't necessarily in the sides. And then you'll see here, sorry, I'm like getting super in the weeds, but you'll see two different Post-its. Steve, you want to say something?
Oh yeah, can you go back to what the director sent you? So this is I guess an upper level question. So I'll go to Noah and Jen, or mid to upper. But is this something you would normally get from a director? How does collaboration generally work? Because this seems really cool and beneficial for writers to know this. It's just, does it depend on the director? I don't know, Jenny, Noah, you want to take this?
Noah, you were shaking your head. No.
No, I've never gotten it, but I want it. Now that I'm only shaking my head going, I should ask for it. It's super useful. And I've seen it. They often have it in their hands as they're, going through their day, and we can I can get the sense for where they're at in their shooting schedule on the shot list. But it would be really cool for me to have it too, because I'll talk about it on my side, but sometimes the higher up you get, I think maybe Jenny, the more you are double checking coverage. And that's not necessarily our job, but we get asked later, why did they miss that shot and whatever. And so you begin to wear more hats, and having the shot list would be fantastic.
Exactly. And I think this was created by one of our directors, our producing director, Brett Dos Santos, who is a savant with this. And he, thankfully, with the new directors who are coming onto the show, he would introduce them to Scriptation and show them how he put something like this together. And so it wound up being something that we would get often from our directors, especially if it's, we don't always get them every day, but if there's something that's pretty technically intense, or it's a really, really busy day and they want to move through it quicker. Oftentimes he would share this with our script supervisor, our, our TP, just a core group of people who have this on hand. And it's a really great way to reference things.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, because the thing that I think makes Scriptation unique is everyone has their own way of doing things. But if the more we can collaborate and share and be on the same page and know what other people are doing, and if we're all open to that, that's going to really help. So that's just a really awesome workflow that everyone's sort of open, like, here's what I'm going to do, and it really collaborative with director writer. Have you guys gotten notes from other people? Do you collaborate with other writers or like DPs, or does any notes get shared like that?
In general, or during the show?
Yeah, in general.
Yeah. So I know, for instance, here a couple of things, like when we're in the writer's room or we're giving writers notes, sometimes, we don't want to give them several documents. And I think, Steve, you may be going into layers. I'm a little less familiar with that, but we would do that so that someone gets layers and you're going to go over that, hopefully, rather than getting, 20 different files of the same thing. But one of the things that I wanted to show here in terms of collaboration is, so I'm not as versed in layers, and hopefully I'll be much more of a pro after you do your section, Steve. But what I've done is do different colors of Post-its, because since we were moving so fast, sometimes our concept meeting talking to all the different departments might happen really quickly. And so I would put all of those in purple. So for instance, you know, it's just a note here, hey, make sure she's got like personal photos and stuff in her office. And even though that's not my department, I write it down for myself to make sure, you know, on the day, if all of a sudden there aren't, you know, that's something to look out for, or if there isn't, I know that it was brought up in a meeting. And then I think green were, for me, were tone notes. So, you know, this scene should connect to the following episode. And the other reason why I like to put into Post-it notes too is oftentimes we have so many people gathered around the monitor and they're looking over your shoulder. And, you know, sometimes we might have more sensitive things written. There might be a note for an actor, like, you know, make sure their posture is upright, but, you know, I don't want it all full out there in text. So, you know, people get very self-conscious that way. So, and then the last thing I like to do is keep, the tone notes here. So.
And the tone notes you write in a word processor and then you bring it in as a PDF?
Thankfully, we have somebody in production, one of our production associates types them up. And
That's
so,
nice.
yeah, so I make sure that's another great thing that you can do and share with everybody so that you're reminded of it, right?
Is that something people do? I've never.
Apparently we did, yeah.
I was a script coordinator. I don't know, Jess, you were a script coordinator. I never like typed up tone notes. I mean, I wrote them in the script, but I don't remember ever typing them.
Sometimes it's the showrunner's assistant.
Oh, okay.
You sit in.
Oh, that makes sense.
You want to back up and I have a feeling just explain someone explaining what tone notes are to some of this audience might be useful. I'm not sure if everyone even aware of what this is and why it's so important to our process.
Oh yeah. So tone notes are usually it's the director being toned by the showrunner, and I've been on shows where it's just one-on-one, like the showrunner or, you know, showrunner, the writer, and just the director. On Mayans, we had a whole crew of people so that everybody could be on the same page very quickly. And so it's going through the script page by page so that showrunner could articulate his vision and also what to watch for, whether it's locations or some storyline down the road to watch for. And it's also the opportunity for the director to ask questions of the main core staff, or especially the showrunner, where he or she may have a specific vision for the scene. Hey, I was thinking about it, doing it this way, so that it could up the tension or whatever. And then that's an opportunity for the showrunner to pipe in and go, well, you know, we actually wanted it more comedic, you know, make it looser, you know, those kind of conversations. And so they're written here for us. They were all note taken, but I wanted to show you all the tabs because I'm especially particular to having it in a certain way. And I didn't know this until I had an SOS text to Steve. I'm like, Steve, I want this in a certain order and I don't want to keep closing out. So I didn't realize like you can hold on to a tab and like slide it backwards and forward. It seems like such a simple thing, but I didn't like immediately figure that out.
It is not so obvious. Did you guys know you could do that in the comments? Rearrange the tabs.
Yeah, you click and hold and ridge it. Yeah. And for me, I like it in a certain order so that every single day, if I need something really quick, that I can switch back and forth, because I always know my call sheet's over here, my side's here, and it's all in a certain order in my brain, so I can access it really quickly. So that's all I got, unless you had other questions or jumping off points.
No, that's great, Jenny. I'm curious if people in the comments, what they think about the collaboration features and sharing notes with other departments, and if they think that would be beneficial, because that's the first time that I have seen a director share notes with writers like that. And I think that's really cool, because I think the future is collaboration. And I think that's where we are all headed with this. Thank you so much, Jenny. Noah, do you want to talk a little bit about how you found out about Scriptation and show us a thing or two?
Yeah, and a lot of what I'm going to show you, I'm going to try not to duplicate, but Jenny, that was a extremely, and Jessica, you guys use this extremely extensively, and I learned a lot from both of you. So that was my hope going into this panel, is that I would learn from the other panelists, and I kind of love how you guys use it. I use it to probably a slightly lesser degree, but it's still a huge part of my workflow. I'm going to share my screen first, just in case it takes a second while I'm telling the story to load. This program was a godsend to me. And I think, Steve, you mentioned that you're a sponsored or a podcast, and this came about, I think, because I was speaking so often in such glowing terms about script. You weren't looking necessarily to sponsor a podcast. We weren't looking necessarily for a sponsor, but I love this program. And so I would talk about how this program came in and really helped me. And one of the ways that it helped me was that I'm really messy and unorganized in general. I try not to be, but I'm a writer. I think a lot of us tend to be messy and unorganized. Not all of us, of course. And the bane of my existence was when new pages would come out, because you would be just getting a handle on the pages you had, and someone would knock on your door and there'd be new pages. And if you're on a show with 22 episodes, you're getting new pages all day, every day. And what happens when you get, saying unable to connect, let me try that one more time. When you're getting new pages, you have to recollate your script, and that takes a while. So you could be spending like an hour a day just covered in, pages, trying to recollate all of your scripts until you get to the highest level. Okay, cool. Where someone will do it for you. So when I found out that there was a program that did this for me, I didn't care about the notes, to be honest, at first. I just cared about the collating, because I wouldn't have to do that. And I eventually would have, before I got this program, I'd have a bookshelf filled with just pages I hadn't got to yet, because you were so busy doing other things. The last thing in your day was collating yourself, putting these pages, these updated pages into your script. How I found out, though, I was on set, NCIS Hawaii, and I was standing in a locations meeting, location scout, with the head of the props department, and he had this cool program up on his iPad where he was putting in the photos he was taking and dropping them directly into the script. And I know for a fact, because I've struggled with this myself, that our screenwriting programs do not do this, or they do not do this very easily. And he was doing it like this. And I'm like, what is that magic trick? What are you using? And he's like, Scriptation, bro. I'm like, what's Scriptation? I've never heard of it. And he gave me like this entire like tutorial on what Scriptation was, how it would. I'm like, and like, I think Jessica, you said it was like magic, the discovery that the notes would transfer to the part of the page that we're looking at. So for me, I'm a writer producer at NCIS Hawaii. I was talking to Steve. I don't have it up here on this page, but on our show, one of the things that we do is we cover, each of us have a different department where we produce, quote unquote, produce. And so some people do casting, some people do hair and makeup, some people do stunts. My job on NCIS Hawaii, on top of being a writer, is also to manage all of the on-screen graphics, and any graphics. The whole art department sort of falls under my purview. And that's a lot of meetings of like, what does things look like? And I have to put them into the script. So every time I would take a note, obviously I would put it into a draft, the current draft of NCIS Hawaii, and then being able to just, transfer it to the new draft, which Jessica already showed you, so I'm not going to show you again, was extremely important. And it had to actually fall right on the line, because it would be something like, they shoot graphics to the screen, on there is the jacket of some bad guy. A jacket is like the FBI profile or whatever of some bad guy, and my notes have to be exactly where that line is every time, no matter where it moves in the script. And lo and behold, it did that. That helped me so much. Now, what you're looking at on my screen is, and I forgive you, you have not seen the season 2 finale of NCIS Hawaii. There's a big spoiler in there, so don't actually, if you're a fan, don't read closely. I'm not going to give it away here, but because I live, my show shoots in Hawaii, and I actually also live in Hawaii. One of the things I do a lot is go to set. So this is although we are lucky that our show does send all of the writers to set, just occasionally a showrunner will not go to set. So that is something we are fighting for. Obviously, we're in a strike. There's things going on. I don't know if that's actually something that's being negotiated now, but it's this sort of endless struggle with the studios that writers should go to set. It's a big part of our job. So I'm not going to go into what I do on set, which is a lot of work. Jenny, Jessica, we all, obviously are showing things that we do during production. But what you're looking at here is actually, I didn't change it. This is the draft I was using during covering the season 2 finale. And you'll see a little bit like Jessica, as somebody said the line correctly, I would put the check mark there, which is really important, or sometimes I would cross it off. This is as we're actually shooting. We're doing a little bit of, our efforts are being duplicated here a little bit by the script supervisor, who is sitting to our left or our right normally, but you're looking for different things. You're making sure the emotion there, is the performance there, is the blocking there, is the shooting there. We are sort of, as I said earlier, I think the higher you get and the more you go to set, the more that kind of ends up on your plate, and you're really just double checking for the showrunner. I always say to the the director or to the DP that we're all allies here. We're all just working together, trying to do the things. So I'm just sort of like just confirming that things have happened the way that I think the showrunner wants them to happen, or if I wrote the episode the way I want them to happen. But of course, the showrunner is always in charge, and so we are checking things off, watching things. But you'll also notice that in a much messier, I think Jenny's was much cleaner, and I do like her trick of putting her tone notes into the little so they can't see them as easily. These were my tone notes from this episode. So you'll see Tennant still jockeying for power here, and sometimes she gets Tennant's the leader of our show. So it's like we're making sure by putting this note in that when I get to this section that I'm feeling that this is the first time in a weird way that this main character is actually is sort of on the low, is not the most powerful person in the room. Right. So this is rare for her. So she needs to act into this. She needs to lean into this. In fact, she's being tortured. So you're going to see in this next thing, this is where he being the bad guy, goes from being friendly to being dark and abusive. And then I ran out of space, and also this is a note for a different department. So I put in the little, what do you call that? What's the word for that, Steve? That the little
Sticky note
box. Sticky note. I put in the sticky note a note to stunts. This one which feels startling and visceral and painful. Why? Because he breaks her arm. But why did I have to put that note into Scriptation? Because she's the lead of our show, and often they treat the leader of our leads of shows sort of gingerly. And in fact, in this case, we really wanted it to feel like she got really hurt in this moment. She was being abused. So without Scriptation, all of this would have been written either in a notepad or on the script itself. And it's, as you go through draft after draft after draft, I actually don't know or don't quite remember how I did it before Scriptation, because there's so many ways in which this streamlines my workflow, and I end up just, having to use this thing. And also one more thing I want to talk about is that they didn't, let's see if I can get to it. So this is the side panel of Scriptation. Here's my little file folder. This is when I was feeling really on top of things and pretended I was going to read all the Blacklist scripts, which I never opened, but they're in there. Blacklist 2022. Friend scripts, when I'm just giving people notes, there should probably be an apostrophe there and an S. And then here's my NCIS Hawaii season 1, NCIS Hawaii season 2. We've only started season 3 very little. I'll fill in the rest of the words there when we get there, but it helps keep my and I create folders, and some of these folders aren't full because I didn't learn about Scriptation until halfway through, but let's see. And I don't always have to keep track of every draft because I'm not writing every draft. I'm not always going to set for every draft. I tend to, sometimes I do get a little bit behind, but mostly in every one of these will be the most current draft of the script that's working on, and I'll try to keep it updated and transfer it all the way through. So that's, how I keep myself organized. And again, I don't know how I would have done it before Scriptation. The thing that I'm hoping, Steve, that you show us as well, I think Jenny, you said the same thing, or sorry, maybe with Jessica, was the idea of the using layers, because I do use Scriptation for different types of notes. And as you can see on my page, and there's other pages, things get messy even on my page, and the layers would help stop that. So I think that's, without going into, things that other people have talked about, that's sort of basically my scriptation workflow. So I'm gonna stop sharing.
And Noah, do other writers use scriptation on NCIS Hawaii? Do directors use it? Do you sort of go around and
I would say that 20 to 30% of the directors use it that I'm seeing, and more probably every year, because it really is also just a really good annotating software. Like as someone said, you can just take good notes. It's a good PDF editor if you're not even using the other things. I would say maybe 2 of our 10 writers use it. So I can definitely try to get more. I feel like, Steve, I know that you're always looking, you guys are looking to grow, and you're definitely getting in with many writers, but it's like there's still a lot of room for growth. I think in a lot of these shows, people, because we're not always together anymore either, a lot of this happens over Zoom. You can't be in the writer's room with somebody, or at least on my show, and be like, look at this cool program. Often they're 3,000-4,000 miles away. So I have spoken about scriptation. It's up to them to start to use it, because I really think that, it's kind of a one-of-a-kind program. If you're doing writing software, you have choices, mostly Final Draft or Movie Magic if you're working, because of the things it does. But there's like 10 other great programs that you can use. For you have the one program, and it does everything that I can imagine, and then probably 100 more things that I don't even know that it does.
There's a question in the comments: how many gigs of space are needed to hold all the seasons and episodes? So that depends on how heavy you're annotating the files. So generally a script that you get is going to be under a megabyte, and if you're doing basic annotation, which is like post-it notes and text annotations and things like that, it's not going to be more than a couple megabytes, 5, 10. If you start throwing in a lot of photos, then that's when things could take some space. But we compress the photos when you bring them in, so we do our best to try and sort of limit that. But I have a Pro from maybe 2020 or 2019, and mine is still generally going pretty strong. So I'm going to show you let's see if I can get this connected and talk at the same time. Not a good multitasker. I'm going to show you, first of all, a lot of pressure on me to show layers. So thanks, guys. I'm the guy with layers, apparently. And I'm gonna cheat a little bit with layers, because I think I have to look back, but we may have had layers, and we've had 3 versions of layers, and this latest version is, we call it lightning layers because it's super fast. You can switch instantly, and I'm going to show you guys that. But I believe I use layers when I did my episode of Blackish. So I'll show you how I had that set up, but it might be a little cheap. Okay, so like Noah was showing you, so I have my seasons here. I worked on season 3 and 4, and just worked on half of season 3 before she went on to write things on other shows and Modern Family. But so I was script coordinating on season 3 and 4, got a freelance in season 4. So I have all of my shows here. I go into 424, call sheets, notes, outline, script, and sides. So this is my organization. I'm going to show you something that I learned kind of on the job. I didn't think I was going to use sides, but I ended up using sides. So we'll get to that in a second. But let's go into the scripts. So let's go to the top one, which is the first revised blue draft, which was the last one. Not because the script was so good, it's the end of the season, and I think we just didn't want to rewrite anymore. So we only did 1 revision. Nothing on me. It's the team of writers that did that. Okay, so let's go into this draft. So we're going to talk about layers now. So I have 2 layers here, and the way that Jenny did her notes, where she was taking different notes in different colors of the sticky notes for different meetings, you could actually do that in layers. So you can go over to production meeting. You could set tone notes, production meeting notes, table read. You can do post table read, which is so I would have done this if I was working today. I would have separated everything that way. That way I can see, okay, what did we like during the table read, and then what was that rewrite like? So you can do it based on all these different rewrites and toggle the notes on and off. So I've got my production meeting notes, which I was, at this time, I was script coordinating. So I was, being more a bit technical here and like stuff that I have to change on the script. So the notes are kind of not, they're a little more technical notes. But then once you get into the table read, and I'll just toggle that on right now, you can see that I have different checks there. And I can actually, so you can toggle on notes to show and hide the notes. I don't know if you can see that because it's sort of in the background. You can actually switch to the notes. So now these are only my table read notes, and I'll go back to the production meeting notes and switch. It's super fast. This is if you haven't used layers in a while, or you used it a long time ago and you're like, oh, it's kind of slow, we fixed that. So I'll jump back into the table read notes, and I noticed, Noah had checks in drama. Well, we do checks in comedy, and what I'm doing here, I think I would, my job as the script coordinator was to help the writers. I was keeping an eye on Kenya. So, Kenya Barris was our showrunner at the time. And so I put a check mark in KB. So if we got Kenya to laugh, I knew that that's a joke that we wanted to keep in. So I did this for just the room in general, but also myself, because I was like, okay, we're not going to change that joke. So I have a lot of check marks on things that, got laughs, and then things that Kenya liked. And
Steve,
he liked a
can I
lot of
ask you a
stuff.
question?
Nope. No, of course.
Pretty please.
Yeah.
Layers, is there, when you're in a layer, is there anywhere that tells you where it is other than going to the left? Because I think one of the things that I caught myself doing is forgetting that I was in a different layer, and then I would write notes, and then it all got messed up.
Yeah. So the thing where you can tell that you're in the right layer is this little pencil icon at the top. Something you could also do to help is in the layer settings menu, you can choose the opacity of background layers. So this might help you realize what layer you're in, because the background layer is going to be faint or not, depending on how you want to do it. So I think our default is 33%. We can make it 35. We could make it 100% so everything's clear, but that's sort of the best way to check which layer you're in. And I know it sort of takes some jumping around, but I think when you're in these meetings, you're not going to generally be jumping from layer to layer. You're just going to take your notes for the tone meeting, or you're just take your notes for the production meeting, or in the table read, you're going to be in that layer. And then you could jump back and forth. And if, I recommend keeping the layers separate, but if you wanted to merge layers just to make things easier, there's a way to merge those layers too. So you could hit merge, do that, and bring them all together so it's one layer in case you want to send it to somebody. Another thing you could do with layers is, if you want to send a layer to a collaborator, either another writer or maybe the director, you can send an individual layer to them. And there are a few ways to do that. So if you click on the ... next to the table read, you can export it as a PDF, which is just those notes in that layer. You could also export it as an SLF, which is a Scriptation layer file. And that's, I find, really beneficial. I've done this before with a co-writer, where you can actually import a layer of notes into your existing layer of notes. So instead of having 3 PDFs where you're going back and forth, you could have one PDF with 3 different people's notes, and you could toggle back on different layers. And I want to say they used part of this on Blackish towards the end of it. I was not there on those final seasons, but the showrunner at the time, Courtney Lilly, was a big Scriptation user, and there was a lot of note sending back and forth in Scriptation. Something that I want to show you that I did that I didn't realize I was going to do until I was on set. So yeah, on set, and Blackish wasn't a paperless show. We eventually got down from like 110 printed scripts to like 50 by the time I was there, or by the time I'd left. I mean, and that's a big win. It's hard to get everybody off paper, but when people are handing out sides, I mean, it's obviously very convenient to carry around your sides. But when you have sides and they're printed, you don't have your notes on them. So something that I did at the end of every night was I created my own sides. And I'll show you how that's done, and then you could sort of take a look at how I was doing that. So on the top right, you hit page previews, and you could hit sides. So you can choose which pages and which scenes you want. You could hit make. Oops, you could hit make sides, and then you could just make sides of just those pages. So I'll show you, I'll go into my sides, and I have day 1 through 5. And I know it's satisfying for everyone to cross off all of the scenes that they've shot. So you can still do that. But I have my sides for the day. So it was kind of nice just to focus on that, have my notes that I've made all the way through the production process on just those few sides that I need, and be able to cross things off was super nice, and just to be done with it. So does anyone else make sides like that as a writer, or is that just me? Okay. Leave in the comments if you use sides. And I know someone's going to say in the comments, I can feel it coming if it hasn't come already, that it's hard to see in the page previews what pages you're choosing. We will be coming out with a sides feature where you can actually select the scenes and make sides that you're accustomed to, where it crosses out the scenes like that. So maybe that's a feature that when we come out with that, more writers and just more people in general will be able to make their own sides with their own notes on them. I'm going to go into one more script. This is not a Blackish script, but this is the feature that I co-wrote that is out today that I mentioned. You could go and buy it. It's a video on demand, starring Halston Sage, Christian Navarro, Chrissy Fit. Romantic comedy. If you like romantic comedies, you'll love this. Maybe. Okay. So I have my file structure organized for this. I have call sheets, clearance. I'm just going to show you the clearance report because I marked up the heck out of this thing. So it's something, we've talked about not just scripts. You can do outlines and call sheets and things like that. So as I was sort of like half script coordinating this too, I was writing this, and I was going through and making all of these notes on the clearance report, talking to the producers, and yeah. So I mean, these are just another document you can keep in there. You can keep any PDF document in and mark it up. I didn't transfer notes on this, but it was a good way for me to highlight what needed to be changed. And if we actually did it, I put a check mark on it. And I'll show you in the shooting drafts, Noah had this. So let's go to Goldenrod. So a feature that we're coming out in Scriptation, because we get this request a lot, is how do I show page colors? So Noah, I forgot to ask you about this because you showed a script with page colors. So little known secret, if you have a script coordinator that is proficient in Final Draft, they can output a PDF with page colors on them. It doesn't happen a lot. Noah, do you remember if you had to request that, or was your script coordinator just doing that?
No, towards the end of our season, they made the change to always show us the color, which is really helpful,
Awesome.
I think, to a lot of departments.
Yeah. I was like semi-script coordinating on this too. So I had a version with colors and a version with people that didn't want colors. But I don't know, it's nice to see, obviously, visually, because when you get a PDF, you're generally not seeing it. So it's good to have that visual representation. And a feature that we will be coming out with in Scriptation is a way to do this in case you do get a PDF that is just white. So we will automatically colorize the pages for you, which is a long time requested feature. I'm going to bring that to you. I don't want to put a date on it, but hopefully soon, let's say, we'll have that feature. So that is what I wanted to talk about. And we're coming up, that went fast. So we're coming up on, we got 5 minutes left. We can go a little longer. Let me sort of read through the comments, and any, Noah, Jenny, and Jess, if you want to check out the comments and feel free to answer some of the questions. Oh, why the pages are different colors. Oh, well, in TV production, every time we lock script and put out a revision, we put the pages out in different colors, and we went to goldenrod on this shoot, and we scriptation very early on, we were used on Game of Thrones, and we didn't sort of know that. We don't keep track of our users. We sort of only know anecdotally. But during that last season, we built a custom product for them. And when we were talking to them, they said they said, this is not a joke. On one episode, they had over 100 script revisions, like not an exaggeration. And that scriptation saved them. So I don't think they, and they were getting it from like very early on. So before it was locked scripts, it wasn't going into like 1,000 goldenrod or anything like that, but they were getting it very early on. And I think something that we haven't talked about here is that, just talked about it briefly, but the note transfer works whether you're in a locked or an unlocked script. It doesn't matter. We do a text analysis and then move the notes over to where they should go.
And also to answer your question, the colors correspond to specific number of revisions. So like blue is the first revision, pink is the second, and there's like a whole standardized process.
I can answer Tom's, I think was earlier, unless it like disappeared. I think he was asking about whether if you have a file on your Mac, does it sync? I use the paid version of Scriptation. There is a free version that I used quite a long time, but given all of like how much I use Scriptation, I use the paid version now that syncs to, I have it synced to my iCloud. And the great thing that, like, one of the things that has made my life so much easier is, sometimes I open my email, I get a draft of something, and I'm on my computer. I put it into my iCloud Drive Scriptation folder. And then once I go to my iPad and I open my Scriptation folder in there, you still need to pull it from the cloud, but it does exist there. So so I think David just put it up, how to sync it, but I make sure I have a folder dedicated to it and I put stuff in there so that I have a really old iPad and a newer one, and I can pull them up on either of them, which has been great.
Yeah, that's a very common question, and not so intuitive to be able to figure out either, because the iOS and iPad and Mac are different, and with Scriptation you're storing files on the iPad and then you have a file structure. So we linked to an article in there in the chat, but you can mimic your iPad on your Mac by connecting it to Dropbox, or as Jenny said, iCloud, and syncing back and forth. Jess or Noah, do you guys use your iPhone to sync, or are you pretty much one device?
I use the Pro, so I just use Dropbox to sync. And also someone asked, Craig asked in the Q&A if you would write the scripts on Scriptation, or if it's more like a PDF reader. It's a PDF focused application. So you would write it in Movie Magic, Final Draft, whatever you use, and then you PDF it, and then you could do whatever you want with it in Scriptation. And you can also just use PDFs that are not scripts as well, as you've seen.
And I want to, you reminded me something that's actually maybe the most important thing that I forgot to say about this process is, we're working writers, and a lot of us, what you're seeing us do is in our workflow for our working job for our show. And I know a lot of you probably out there maybe haven't yet got on your first job yet, or in between jobs. So how does it work for you if you're not on a show? And I'm a huge believer that everyone says, you know, when you send out a script, the first thing that you notice about 3 minutes later is a typo on page 1. It happens to all of us, and we all write that horrible email. Can you read this draft instead? Because you're like, how did I read this 100 times and missed that typo on page 1? And I realized what we were doing. This is my theory, but Scriptation kind of is really helpful in this. Is you send it to somebody and then you get a little nervous. We all do, and you're like, did I send the right one? Is it good? Is it? And you open it up, the PDF that you sent now, and you open it up on your phone or your iPad or even on your computer. And the act of reading it as a PDF makes you see it in a whole different way. So what became an important part of my process as a writer, whether I'm writing for a show or for myself, is to read the script as a PDF, not print it out. I do that as well, but as a separate step where I'll read it on my screen. And you're like, is it any different than in the Final Draft program? Yes. I don't know why, but it's different. If you want an extra set of eyes and you don't have an editor in your house, read it as a PDF, use Scriptation. Even if you just use Scriptation for that, it'll save you a lot of typos.
Okay, let's some other questions. Yeah, so someone's first time seeing Scriptation. Great, thanks for being here. Yeah, it's not a writing program, it's a annotating program. So most people are using Final Draft to then convert it to a PDF and then importing it in that way. Let's see, any other questions? Oh, missing being able to rotate stamps. I missed that too. Used to be able to rotate stamps, but then there were PDF errors in that, so we had to make sure you
Steve, is there anything coming down the pipeline with being able to edit Word docs without converting them to PDFs straight out of?
No. We discussed that internally. You know, it's editing, because there's software where you can go and edit a PDF, right? We've seen that we can edit PDF text. Doing that will sort of mess with some algorithms that we have to transfer notes. And if you start like editing the core of the PDF, it could change things. So not quite yet, but we do have some stuff coming down the pipeline for non-writers or writers. We have a tagging feature that is coming out. That's sort of our next big feature for ADs, things like that. It's really great. That should be out in a few weeks. Something very subtle that we just did that I think is going to make a lot of people happy. If you notice quickly on my iPad, I actually have a beta version of Scriptation, but this is super minor, but you're going to love it. So file names are very long, as we know. You'll get a name of like 30 characters. And then when you're trying to go through your files, it's like every script is like the blue, the pink, like you can't tell the difference. You have to open them. So now we're showing the end of the file names, so you can always see that. So it'll be the date, or it'll say pink. I know everyone's shaking their head. This is a long time coming. Apparently it was easy for us to do and we never did it. So that's my fault. But this should make everybody happy that you can now see it without having to go into the document and see. Yeah. So you're welcome. Should have done that one a while ago. Okay. Not seeing any other questions, or maybe I'm just missing them. Feature like notes that is separate from the script. You could do the Post-it notes and the sticky notes. You could do what Jenny did earlier and print out. I haven't seen that done. That is really cool. I'm going to do that from now on. Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks everyone for being here. This was an awesome turnout. Thanks for spending time with everyone today. I know we've been on these Zooms forever, and so it's nice that we had such a big turnout. And thank you, Jenny. Thank you, Noah. Thank you, Jess, for giving us all things that we did not know before. Thanks everyone in the comments. This is really an active workshop, so really appreciate it. Okay, everyone. Thanks a lot. Check out for any additional questions. I know we didn't go super deep into a ton of features, and I know there was a comment. I said I probably retained 50% of the information. YouTube.com/Scriptation. We have hundreds of videos there. And help.scriptation.com. We probably have 300 plus articles with hundreds of videos there as well. So we have a lot of things that you can watch. We also have a basics, intermediate, and advanced webinars, all for free. That's really great. So if you're just learning, go to the basics class. You can scrub around through different chapters if you know, oh, that's obvious, and scrub to something that you don't know. So the amount of things there for you guys to learn, it's all there for you, and free. Feel free to email us, support@scriptation.com, if you have any specific questions that were not answered in this, that you're not finding in the videos and on help desk. So again, thanks everyone for being here, and we'll hopefully this strikes resolve soon, and then we'll see you on set.